Let's get the thoughts of Jason Whitlock, an old friend. He has his own podcast called Fearless. Of course, you can watch it on YouTube as well. It's youtube.com/Jason Whitlock. He joins us on the Doug Gottlieb Show on Fox Sports Radio. Jason, what's your sense of what really happened here?
What really happened is that, Tim Anderson is a drama queen, beta male, emotionally controlled, and he let Josh Donaldson troll him into an emotional response. And instead of being a man and saying, hey, I lost my cool and overreacted, he played the race card, and the White Sox all, co-signed it out of fear that if they didn't, they'd be considered racist as well. And so it's just, look, man, you played college basketball at the highest level. You played a little pro ball. Look, you've been in competition your whole life. Guys talk trash on the court. Calling someone Jackie after they've called themselves Jackie Robinson in a magazine article is about as tame as it gets in terms of on-court trash talking.
Yeah.
And, Tim Anderson is the weak person here because he overreacted and blew it into something that it's not. And, of course, the media is going to fall in line, and the White Sox, out of fear, Tony Roos is, I think, 77 years old. He's afraid of being called the old white guy. But in our era, Doug, if someone came into the locker room complaining about this, and I'm older than you, you'd probably get beat up in my era for coming in and complaining about it. You'd get laughed out of the gym probably in your era.
No, I don't. How have we gotten to the point where everything, like the
social media,
the default is always racism, though?
Social media. That's what social media rewards. And everybody's living their life for social media applause. That's how you advance in the media space. That's how you build a brand. Tim Anderson got to be a victim. There's no higher level of celebration in social media than being a victim. That's how you erase. I'm sorry. I don't want to drag you in the middle of something, but I can only talk in the analogies that come to my mind. George Floyd lived a life that no one would be proud of until he was a victim. And now he's one of the most celebrated people in all of social media. There's no higher standing in social media than being a victim. Tim Anderson found a little victimhood, and he's wallowing in it.
I want to ask you about this. It just came out. So, again, I'm just Gabe Kapler, who's the manager of the San Francisco Giants. This in reaction to, I believe, the shootings in Texas, which are absolutely tragic. Gabe Kapler told reporters in Cincinnati he doesn't plan on coming out for the National Anthem, and that will be his plan going forward until I feel better about the direction of our country. What's your reaction to what Gabe Kapler is choosing to do?
That's the standard. Again, Colin Kaepernick, another victim, celebrated victim over social media. This is all brand building. And hats off to Gabe Kapler. He's going to build a brand, and he's now, very heroic in taking this strong stance against America because, and again, I'm sure I would love to have a conversation with Gabe Kapler about the history of America, the founding principles, the Second Amendment, why they put it in there, why it's necessary. He doesn't know any of that. What he does know is that, being against the Second Amendment right now is very popular on social media and in the circles that have corporate power, and so he's fallen in line. It's stupid. It's people don't appreciate the freedom they have in this country. They don't appreciate the standard of living we have in this country. They don't appreciate the freedom, and they don't know what guarantees it, and it's the Second Amendment. And I want to be a little bit gracious here and say, I used to be anti-Second Amendment. I used to be, hey, this thing has outlived its usefulness.
Yeah.
And then I started doing research and started understanding on a deeper level why we have to tolerate the menace of guns and what freedoms they guarantee. And I had to pivot and change because I got a deeper understanding. And so I used to be as silly as Gabe Kapler. I don't think I'd be protesting the national anthem over it, but I used to think the same thing.
My stance would be different. Mine would be I understand the Second Amendment. I do think we've evolved to the point where there isn't really an argument I can listen to about having an AR-15 and go like, yeah, that makes sense to me. So that's where I believe that the Second Amendment is there for a reason, and you should have the right to personal protection, but there's a limit there, right? And if the limit now is, well, you can't have a rocket over-the-shoulder rocket launcher, right? Because if it was all freedom, then why can't you have an over-the-shoulder rocket launcher? Well, no, there has to be protections in place, and I think a reasonable protection in place should be some sort of limit to the number of rounds per minute, rounds per second that are fired. I think that's a reasonable place, but let's not get into a Second Amendment fight. It is interesting, though, the parallels in the tragic shooting and in the Tim Anderson thing, where it's like, for whatever reason, nobody will just go like, hey, sorry, that sucks. But in regards to Tim Anderson, I'm talking about. Like, it's crazy. He's a guy, he got suspended for calling a white guy an N-bomb a couple years ago when they got into a scrap, right? But I don't understand. I'm told I can't understand how it feels because I'm white. You're black, okay? So why? Tell me why if I label myself the next Jim Rome, right? Jim Rome's a white guy. He's from Southern California. We're both Jewish. Matter of fact, I know Jim Rome. He doesn't live that far from me. I'm the next Jim Rome. And then I go walking into a bar, and clearly my gig has not been as financially beneficial as Rome's is, right? And somebody's like, hey, and a black guy's like, yeah, next Jim Rome, huh? Or something like that. Like, I'm allowed to think that that's offensive? Help me.
Look, it's the world we've built, and there are many black people whose total happiness and self-confidence is derived from how white people feel about them. And Tim Anderson cannot be happy, cannot feel fulfilled unless every white person thinks he's the greatest human being in the history of mankind. If they're in control of self emotionally, the approval of white people is just that important to him. And you're not built that way. You're not the approval of your wife, your kids, your parents, your brothers, sisters, probably really important to you. Maybe some coworkers, but just some rando that you're competing against on the field or court, or somebody over Twitter. Your emotions, your self-confidence aren't tied up in that. Neither are mine. Tim Anderson's is. He's weak. He's a beta. It's the Major League Beta Association or whatever. Major League Betas.
How do we get to that place though in professional sports? Professional sports
because the whole society has been feminized. The entire men. We've been preaching to men, get in touch with your feelings, show your emotions. That's good, that's healthy. And again, I'm not anti-emotions. I think they need to be controlled, shared with people close to you who care about you. But just wearing your emotions on your sleeve and showing your emotion all the time, it's ridiculous. It's unmanly. But again, all the standards, the traditional standards of manhood, have been and are under the process of being eliminated. And so Tim Anderson has the emotional maturity of a little girl, little boy, and, there's a lot of athletes just like that. Just because they make a lot of money and can hit a baseball really hard or catch a football or whatever doesn't mean that they have legitimate masculine energy. Hitting somebody on a football field is one form of toughness. Having the mental toughness to, seek your confidence through yourself and through people important to you, that's a mental toughness that a lot of people don't have because, again, they just weren't raised right.
Yeah, well, I don't know if it's raised right, but it's raised to. It's just it's very interesting on the pushback in things which, like, if we're going to take trash talking out of baseball, I don't like the talking and the chatter is part of baseball. I don't know, Whit. Hey, man, listen. I hope you have a.
Just think if you melted down every time somebody mentioned Notre Dame to you. Literally, if you were that easy to troll when you were playing at Oklahoma State, every time a fan shouted something about Notre Dame, you lost it, or some opponent.
The first time we played at the University of Oklahoma, we're getting ready for introductions, and the student section's full. I get introduced, and a hail of fake credit cards come on the floor, right? The next year we played at Oklahoma, they had the Gottlieb brickometer, and every time I missed, they had the little number thing. They moved on the brickometer. It was great. It was great. Now, does it feel good when somebody trolls me on Twitter 25 years later? Like, no, it doesn't feel good. Okay, but I also will point out that I did it. Right? Like, the blame falls on me.
No different than Tim Anderson called himself Jackie Robinson.
Correct.
He did it.
Correct. But mine was like a crime, right? Like mine was I did wrong by somebody. Like, but he just. I actually think it's offensive to Jackie Robinson's family. Josh Donaldson apologized to Jackie Robinson's family. Like, wait, you weren't the one who called yourself next Jackie Robinson when Jackie Robinson was not just the first black player in Major League Baseball. Jackie Robinson was a great player. Tim Anderson's a nice player. Like the two, there's no comparison between the two. That's actually more offensive than getting teased with Jackie.
And Jackie Robinson was someone that put up with real insults and still carried himself like a grown man without losing his emotional control. Tim Anderson, a far cry from Jackie Robinson.
You can check out his work, okay, on his podcast, or check it out at youtube.com/Jason Whitlock. Of course, check out all his podcasts on wherever you download them on Apple. Jason, have a great Memorial Day weekend. Thanks for joining us.
Thank you, Doug.